Yes.
Hi, recording in progress.
There we go. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start the webinar. So just.
Well, are we open yet for people to show up?
I'm in practice mode, so I wouldn't see that. So yeah, if I start webinar, then I guess we'll see that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Start this. And the webinar has now started. So just going to wait a minute or so. Start.
You know, it's funny, you would, in real life, or in a physical room, because this is obviously real life, you would open the doors, and if you had a good anxious crowd, they would move in sort of with pace to find their seats.
Yes.
And we joke about that here, that we open the doors and people are running in to get to the front row seats. So.
I know that David uses that line. You have got front row seats for those of you who've just joined us. So it's always nice to see. So yeah, we've got some attendees coming on. So we're just going to give it a minute or so.
As long as there's no elbowing and punching to get to the front, and keeping it civil.
Indeed. How's the US, John?
US is fine. We had our holiday this past Monday. It's essentially a way of memorializing, I guess. I'm not sure if that's quite the right word. There was a rather large riot a long time ago in Oklahoma, and it was essentially a bunch of white folk taking up arms against the Black community. It was a bit of a tragic event, but it's now become a national holiday. So people are still getting used to the fact that it exists. It's like, oh, what, 16th of June? What is that? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. So that happened. And then personally, in 2 weeks' time from tomorrow, I'll be on a plane to Hawaii for 2 weeks. So looking forward to that.
Lovely.
Getting back for the first time since before COVID.
Yeah, no, well deserved, I must say. All right. Let's kick off. So thank you for everyone who's attending today. My name is Dal Rai. I'm the investor portfolio manager for LEOcrowdfunding. Sorry, just bear with me one moment. John, have you seen the next slide come up there by any chance?
No, I just see the weekly broadcast slide, the first one.
Interesting enough, that hasn't. There we go. There we are.
Perfect.
We also have our celebrity John Corrie joining us with his new microphone. Hello, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. For those that are actually viewing this, you will notice there's no big extension of my ears from my Bose headset, but I still have it as a backup. So.
Yeah, we can get to see the full hair now, John.
Yeah,
and your
it
full
means
face.
I have to spend more time in wardrobe. So.
Brilliant. So yeah, just a bit of housekeeping. This is recorded and it will be put onto our YouTube channel. So please do subscribe onto our YouTube, and there is loads and loads of content on our YouTube channel for anyone that wants to go through those. We have a few topics that we were going to be going through today. If you've got any questions, please answer them through the Q&A chat rather than the chat itself, and we can address them going through the broadcast. So just kick things off, just a quick update from LEOcrowdfunding. So far, so the most recent project is Waits House, which was investment is now closed, and we've got a total of 50 investors, over £265,000 raised. It was a conversion of commercial to residential from an experienced developer, Creation Tech. So the shareholder draft agreement will be sent out.
Actually, it has gone out. I received it yesterday, and I want everybody to read it. I like it when others read it. Maybe I missed something as someone who's pledged on this. It's always good, just wade through it, read all the details. Those of you that are thinking of doing raises in the future, also read it with an eye to, if I was doing a raise, would I want this in my shareholder agreement? Would I want to offer this or take that or move something around? So it's a perfect opportunity to read it because you're an investor, but also read it because it's a template for possible future raises for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, John. Yeah, and if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to myself or simply reply to the support email address, and we'll look at those. So we have got a few private raises behind the curtain. So from Coast City and Newman Rose, and also the UK PA private raise as well. So if you want to hear more about those, please do reach out. There's my email address, dal@leocrowdfunding.com, and I'll be more than happy to discuss those in more detail.
A quick point on this. I think it's important for people to understand that sometimes for commercial reasons, you want your raise to have a low profile. You're trying to reach out to people to raise money, but you don't want everybody else understanding what you're doing with the deal at this stage. So this is a fine way to use the platform to actually use it as a tool to raise your money, but keeping it a lower profile than otherwise. Yes, you lose out on all the benefits of building your brand when you do it this way, but it's definitely a choice that you have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, John. So our weekly question. So every week we have a question to John. So this particular question, and I also personally want to know this question. How have you become a go-to person for information on property investment, deal structuring, and compliance? So yeah, John, over to you.
So I think I want to broaden this slightly. So you can become the go-to person in an area, in a topic, and everybody, if you have a successful career, you're probably the go-to person for something. If you're a dad or a mom, you're the go-to person when a child needs something. If you're a bus driver, then you know the route and all these other things. So it's about expertise. And if you want to be known for something, then you need to do two things. One is you need to know your topic rather well. It doesn't mean you're the best in the world, absolute. I know some Brits have a problem with the word expert, but having expertise that friends, family, coworkers, investors, all, people down the pub, whatever it is, your circle, they turn to you for advice on certain topics, or they turn to you to get your perspective, your view. Maybe it's not advice. They want to talk to a few people to see what the feel is, what the lay of the land is. So when it comes to property investment, deal structuring, compliance, well, I've been doing property investing since 1983. I've worked in investment banks, I've worked in technology, so structuring things, working out how to make the details work. Computer science background, again, it's all about how to ferret out the fine detail. And on the last one, compliance, mostly it's tied to reading the documents. The more you read the documents, the more you pay attention to the regulations and whatever your country is, whatever jurisdiction is involved, the more you'll know what the latest information is. And this applies to planning. So if you were trying to do a property deal and you wanted to get planning permission, understand the local plan. The nice thing is the councils publish 5 years in advance what it is they want, and they're telling you right up front, this is what we expect in your application. So anybody here can establish themselves by being competent, and then you do need to share, get onto the online forums and online groups or whatever it is in social media and help people out. Be generous with your time, share what you know so that people come to see you over time as the person that knows the topic.
Yeah, I mean, interesting you should say that, John. I think just relaying back to the shareholder agreement for Waite's House, you read it time and time again, you familiarize yourself with it, and you naturally become an expert at shareholder agreements. I know that we've seen, and yourself included, have seen many over the course of the platform. So yeah, totally agree. The more research you do into it, the better you be.
That's a good point. And I think we're going to get to in a minute when you're going to share your knowledge on foreign exchange. And okay, you've worked in the area, so therefore you've developed some expertise. Indeed.
Leading on nicely. So this week's topic, so international property investing and currency exchange. So those of you who don't know me, and may not know, I was a senior trader for Rightmove Overseas, A Place in the Sun, the TV program, also International Post Office as well, and a few others, being one of my clients. So 8 years of currency exchange has certainly been embedded in me. So I've hopefully, got some experience and expertise on the back of that. So what I wanted to kind of go through are key things to consider when purchasing or investing in properties overseas. So leading on to that, what current processes do you have in place if you're looking to purchase a property overseas? Have you considered currency volatility and exposure? And if I was to give you an example, you're purchasing in Spain 500,000 euros at the rate of exchange on spot at 116, spot being the actual rate of exchange on the day, on the time, on the second. That property may cost you £431,000. However, with a 2%, 5% fluctuation throughout the week, which is quite normal, that same property might cost you £15,000 more. So it's really just to manage that exposure. Of course, you might have a set completion date on your property. Generally takes about 2 to 3 months, very, very similar to the UK. A lot can happen. And that's not, of course, to mention any big data that's coming out, such as the CPI, interest rate changes, service information, etc. So those are the kind of the key thing I would say is have a look at that. And what type of contingencies have you put into place?
1 second.
Sure.
The sort of glib, have a look at that. How do people have a look at that? What do they do?
So generally speaking, I think if I go on to the budgeting question, hopefully I'll answer that as well. But typically what you would do, and we always use the phrase kind of BRS, have a look at your budget, have a look and mitigate the risk and follow a solution. So the best way that we would say is, of course, if you could naturally purchase the currency prior to completion. So what you have got is options such as a forward buy with a 5 or 10% deposit. And then that you've got certain amount of pounds locked in for 500,000 euros. And no matter what happens within that market, you are guaranteed those euros at that rate. So there are also options where you can put an alert order in. So if there's a particular rate of exchange that you're looking to target, your foreign exchange broker or possibly even your bank are proactive and call you as and when kind of market is fluctuating. So those are the typical measures that you would look at in terms of the processes, and obviously the time frame. Make sure you're working alongside whoever's helping you with the currency exchange on what you're looking for. Another typical kind of option, I guess, is setting limit and stop orders as well, which we tend to do, especially if you are, I guess, a company purchasing an import and export. Typically speaking, you need a set euro or dollar amount because you're looking to purchase goods. And of course, you may not need that order until 6 months. But of course, it will come off your bottom line, not knowing what you're exposed to. So that's kind of the norm for a corporate client. So contingencies are very important. Having a look at your budget for your property purchase. Have you taken that fluctuation into consideration? Have you got a spare £20,000, £50,000, or whatever it might be? You would ascertain that through kind of your broker and see where you sit with your budget.
So a slightly different question. So that
Sure.
makes a lot of sense from a lump sum purchase. So what if I've already bought and now I have monthly charges, maintenance, mortgage, whatever. So every month I'm receiving rents, and every month I have some bills in one currency and some bills in the other currency. How do I sort of set things up on a rolling basis?
Yeah, good question. So generally speaking, it really boils down to, again, leading on to the third question there, it's how proactive your broker is really. If you know you've got set bills, service charges, maintenance charges, etc., whatever it might be, you can, again, purchase the currency and hold it in your client account with the brokerage, and you can transfer the funds as and when you need them. So you bulk buy and you know exactly how many euros or dollars or whatever it might be that you need ahead of time. Second to that, if you are looking to target a rate, then of course you can discuss options with your broker. Also having a look at general trends and market data that might be released. So if you know you're looking to purchase a certain currency in a 30-day window because you're paying a bill, then of course look into general data and see what's coming out that could essentially affect that exchange considerably, and of course that movement might be the case that you think, well, actually I'll secure that prior to that. So I think just really about kind of going out there and doing a bit of research yourself as an investor. I think that's key. Secondly, keeping on top of market information. Again, we're not expecting investors to do that and know everything. That's why your trader or your broker's there to help you manage that risk. Yeah, I think hopefully that's answered your question, John.
Thank you. Yep, that was good.
Great. And again, just wanted to highlight, how competitive is your broker or your bank. Now, I often had investors calling me saying, well, actually, the bank is offering me, I don't know, I'm going to base it on today's exchange rate, 116 for the euro. That would be the interbank rate. So that's not the actual rate of exchange that the bank would give you. For those of you who don't know, it's a margin that they will take off. Typically, you may be looking around 3% from a bank, where a broker would be slightly less, and that's where ultimately they would make their money from that margin, or the spread, as traders call it. So a good way to assess how much the bank or your broker is charging is to collectively get an exchange rate of both parties, or at that exact time. Or you can quite frankly ask them, how much are you charging before this exchange? And it's not uncommon. I mean, you have got banks like Revolut and of course Monzo and a few others who are fairly competitive now in terms of margins, but again, they won't really manage your actual purchase. They won't work with you to try and ascertain the best and risk-free result. So that's quite important as well.
Cool. I know a long time ago we were dealing with my wife and I some transactions. I think they had to be over 20,000, but we were at Citi, which had a multi-currency account, and we would speak with the bank representative. And because whenever you did a transaction over 20,000, they would quote call down to the trading floor, whatever that means, and they would get effectively a price that was only good for the next few minutes. So rather than the price that was set at 8 o'clock or so when they opened for business that day, and used a price that was good for the whole day, but it was probably further away from the market, they would call down to say, what is the actual price right now? And we could transact at that. And it was definitely a difference.
Yes, so that would be, yeah, you're quite right. So that will be the spot price, and that's where the banks would exchange amongst each other. So that's not available to you and I, or the general public, or even if you were exchanging 100 million, probably relatively close to that, to be completely honest with you. But yes, you'd be basing it on a spot price, which fluctuates on a minute by or second by second basis. So that's why it's very key to get those prices if you are comparing a broker versus bank at that particular time or that particular second of what that exchange rate would have been. And also, just on the last question there, the ease of use. So again, just going back to John's question about, you know, bills, service charges, your general kind of monthly bills and stuff like that. So it's the ease of actually transferring the funds. So you may not have a euro account with your bank, or, you know, multi-currency account where you can hold such currency and execute those and transfer as and when you need. So I think, again, having a broker work alongside you will give you access to a client multi-currency account, and you can generally hold funds as long as you can on those, and exchange using various other methods as portals, etc. So you don't necessarily have to make a call to transfer the funds. Most of these brokers have got an app-based facility now, just for ease and instant transfers. And again, leading on to the property purchase itself, is quite important on, obviously, exchange dates. So typically in the UK, you know, we would exchange on the day. We'd make sure the funds are there ready with the solicitor. Obviously, it's the same setup overseas as well. But of course, if you're using a bank, for instance, there may be multiple checks that they need to do before the funds are transferred. Equally, it could be the case with the broker as well, which of course could delay the purchase as well. So ease of use, seeing how quickly funds can get to the third party in question.
Very good.
Great. Well, thank you. If you've got any questions about currency or anything like that, feel free to reach out. I'll try and help. But of course, I've completely come away from that, but I do like to share some wisdom as and when I can. So John, over to you on this one.
Actually, before we go to that, we just did have a question pop up.
Oh, okay.
What is the cheapest way to move currency to actually affect the transfer?
So generally speaking, you wouldn't account a charge unless it's a small transaction. The cheapest way, again, is probably to use a brokerage rather than your bank, because a bank would charge anything between 15 and 30 pounds for a transfer over or less than £1,000. That could have changed since my time there, but I do know that they do charge for their transfers. Whereas if you went through a broker, those charges are significantly lower. We as a broker would charge something along the lines of £5 for an instant transfer.
Very good. And is TransferWise, or what is now I think Wise, a broker?
Yes. So
okay.
TransferWise, again, very competitive with the exchange rates, very similar to Revolut and Monzo. Offer multi-currency accounts. They, I believe, do offer a service where you're exchanging a larger amount for a purchase, and they will often you would have an appointed trader or a broker to represent you, and of course to help you through the process as well.
Very good. I hope that answers the question for the person that asked it. And anyone else that has a question, either put it in the Q&A right now during the live, or put it down below on the YouTube recording.
Absolutely.
Fundraising. I guess this is me, right?
This is you.
Raise funding legally. So the point here is to raise money. Classically, in most transactions, your cheapest form of money is going to be a first charge loan. But after you've provided a first charge to a lender, you may still need some more money to get the deal over the line. Lenders classically won't go anywhere near 100%. So this is all about raising the equity, because lenders like to see some equity in the deal. They don't want you just borrowing all the money. So if you're trying to raise money and you want to do it legally and you want to do it efficiently and you want to do it at scale so you can grow your business, then we have Raise Funding Legally. It's a 3-day workshop. It's on the dates on the screen, which is July 5th, 6th, and 7th. This is a 3-day live session. It is online, so on broadcast, but there won't be recordings. This is not meant to be something you do as catch up. If you wanted to actually sign up, the URL's on the screen. It's a bit long, but I will read it out for those that are listening. Raising funds legally. So that's raisingfundslegally.co.uk/3-day-bootcamp. So 3-day-bootcamp. And again, if you need to reach out because that was unclear, you can do that and we'll get it to you. But 3 days, 5th, 6th, and 7th, there's a special price if you take action before the next month. So in the month of June, and it is 5th, 6th, 7th of July.
Excellent. Again, that link, we can send that link out, but I'm just about to try and copy that link and put it into the chat, but I don't want to offset the presentation in any way. So reach out to myself. I know that a few of you have already inquired about this. I had a question actually from an investor not so long ago, or fundraiser. Where is it held?
So it's a broadcast live over Zoom.
Live. It's over Zoom. Okay, that's what I
so
thought.
There's a special dashboard you log into. It's not just a normal Zoom. It's going to feel a lot more interactive because there's a dashboard, questions and all that. But technically you would be sitting in your office or home, wherever you'd like to be, and you would interact with everybody else through Zoom.
Excellent, thank you. So next week's topics, again, a bit more about the bootcamp, and we'll have more details about testimonials as well. So yet to be confirmed. So
hey, I just covered the bootcamp perfectly. I don't know what we're going to cover next week. So I think that's David just filling in space.
It could well be. It could well be. And that's it from us. So thank you for all the attendees. Again, this is recorded and accessed. You can access this through our YouTube channel. And thank you, John. I just want to give us a couple of words.
Thank you. And it's good to hear about FX. It's definitely an issue, whether it's Florida dollars, whether it's euros. I'm not saying you should invest in property overseas, but if for some reason that makes sense for you, you do need to get the FX sorted, because you don't make your money. You don't sort of invest as an FX trader. You're a property business person, and FX is a cost or a friction, and you need to be on top of it. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. Thank you, John, and thank you everyone else, and we'll see you next week. Take care.